Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Holy frickin' moly, Donald Trump just dropped a tactical frickin' nuke on the global trade status quo. Donald Trump just took to the podium and sent a clear message worldwide that America will no longer be taken advantage of. For decades, America has played the role of the nice guy, the global punching bag, bending over backwards while foreign nations soaked American markets with exports and slapped massive tariffs on American imports. And Donald Trump, in true Trump fashion, just got up in front of those cameras and declared that that era is over. And look, I know there's a whole lot of uncertainty, especially in the short term right now, but people really shouldn't be all that surprised. As we know with Donald Trump, he doesn't just say things to get elected. When he says something, he believes it and he means it. And the concept of America First was never just a slogan, it was a strategy, it was a belief. And so reciprocal tariffs are absolutely in play. And of course, predictably, the Democrats are losing their damn minds. But it seems they don't really understand the concept of leverage. And at the end of the day, the left-wing political elite have spent decades selling out American workers in exchange for praise from the global elites. But Trump entered the game and he's flipping the frickin' chessboard. And so let's try to navigate this. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so exactly like I said, Donald Trump takes to the podium with a giant poster, and he is sending a clear warning shot to foreign nations, listing pretty much all the tariffs that they impose on the United States, and signaling to the world that America is going to hit them back with reciprocal tariffs.
China, first row, 67%. That's tariffs charged to the USA, including currency manipulation and trade barriers. So 67%, I think you can, for the most part, see it. Those with good eyes, with bad eyes. We didn't want to it's very windy out here. We didn't want to bring out the big charts because it had no chance of standing. So it's 67%, so we're going to be charging a discounted reciprocal tariff of 34%. I think, in other words, they charge us, we charge them less. So how can anybody be upset? They will be, because we never charge anybody anything. But now we're going to charge. European Union, they're very tough, very, very tough traders. 39%, we're going to charge them 20%. So we're charging them essentially half. Vietnam, great negotiators, great people. They like me, I like them. The problem is they charge us 90%. We're going to charge them 46% tariff. Taiwan, where they took all of our computer chips and semiconductors. We used to be the king, right? We were everything. We had all of it. Now we have almost none of it, except the biggest company is coming in. We're going to end up with almost 40%. Lee Zeldin's working to get their approvals. And it's an amazing company. Mr. Wei, of one of the great companies of the world, actually. They're coming in from Taiwan, and they're going to build one of the biggest plants in the world, maybe the biggest for that. But 64%, we're going to charge them 32%. Japan, very, very tough, great people. And again, I don't blame the people for doing it. I think they're very smart in doing it. I blame the people that sat right in that Oval Office, right over there.
The White House also released the full list. Maybe I'll put it up here on screen or slowly scroll through all of it. And just visually looking at all those numbers, you could tell how imbalanced it is, right? How Donald Trump kind of has a point when he mentions the tariffs being mostly one-sided. Or maybe it's better to say lopsided. And so that right there, I think, visualizes the issue that Donald Trump is talking about. And now, of course, like I mentioned in the intro, the left is treating this like it's the end of the world as we know it. They're absolutely freaking out all over social media, clearly trying to gain some momentum ahead of the 2026 midterms. They're all plastering charts of market dips and doing their best Chicken Little impression, the sky is falling. And the major claim of their argument is that these tariffs are now going to be hurting Americans. But I'd say there's a little bit of a flaw in that logic. Using short-term fluctuations and short-term market volatility as proof of long-term catastrophe or bad policy seems a little bit half-baked. And in my view, it reeks as a globalist information operation, and certainly a Democrat political play. The way I see it, it's way too early to be making these kinds of predictions, and Trump himself has already addressed this directly.
In the coming days, there will be complaints from the globalists and the outsourcers and special interests, and the fake news. The fake news will always complain. But never forget, every prediction our opponents made about trade for the last 30 years has been proven totally wrong. They were wrong about NAFTA. They were wrong about China. They were wrong about the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which would have been a disaster if I didn't terminate it. If I didn't terminate that, United Auto Workers, you would have had no jobs in this country. In my first term, they said tariffs would crash the economy. Instead, we built the greatest economy in the history of the world. Everyone's going to fight. I say to the leaders, look, you got to take care of your country, but we have to start taking care of our country now. We can't do what we've been doing for the last 50 years.
That right there is basically the strategy. Short-term pain for long-term gain. All the naysayers right now are making it seem like Donald Trump's being reckless. He's acting with reckless abandon, doesn't know what he's doing. He's like a bull in a china shop. But what Trump's unveiling here isn't some spur-of-the-moment idea. It's not an egomaniac out of control, just slapping tariffs for no reason. No, it's actually a very well-articulated and well-thought-out 400-page report that was released by the White House and U.S. trade representatives, where they detailed line by line every single trade barrier placed on U.S. goods by foreign nations. And what they're saying is, in all these areas where people impose trade barriers on us, why shouldn't we do the same in response? And what the left doesn't seem to understand here is the end game. There's an actual point to this. Donald Trump's intention is not to destroy global trade or destroy American markets. The message to the world is actually very simple, because that's what he's doing. He's sending a message using the American economic might as a point of leverage. He's saying, if you don't want these tariffs, drop yours. This is reciprocity, not aggression. For decades, foreign countries have dumped their products into the U.S. markets while keeping U.S. goods out of theirs. And Trump is saying enough. Why should we accept these lopsided relationships, where everybody gets rich on our market, dumps all kinds of cheap goods in the US market, and then blocks American goods from coming into theirs? And look, I get it, it's scary because it's a completely different outlook from the past, compared to the Biden or Obama days, where those administrations practically apologized for American strength. They bent over for international interests and agreed to trade deals that essentially gutted US industries. Well, it seems like what Trump's doing is saying no more. It's time to reclaim sovereignty. And it seems like it's already having an effect. Countries like Vietnam are already talking about removing some of their tariffs and coming to the table. We got Canada's Doug Ford, who just today signaled that Ontario is now open to removing tariffs entirely as long as the US does the same.
I think it's fair that you have tariffs on a whole number of products.
And we'd be willing to take those off tomorrow if he took all the tariffs off.
If, in fact, you're prepared to take your tariffs off, why wouldn't you have that negotiation and that conversation now before any tariffs get put in place?
We've had this conversation for over the last month. We don't want tariffs. We have another $65 billion worth of tariffs to launch today. That's the last thing we want to do, because it's just, again, it's going to hurt both countries. It's going to hurt American workers. That's the last thing I want.
Andrew meant take the other ones off, not the ones you're launching today, the ones that you already got.
You're saying you take all your tariffs off. I'm saying
we will take them all. That's right.
And so it seems as though, again, Donald Trump is less acting recklessly and incompetently and more so knows exactly how to negotiate. He's applying pressure, using his leverage, and watching these people fold one at a time. And it's crazy because if you listen to the media, there seems to be this blanket double standard applied here. You see the same thing with immigration, for instance. If Japan locks down their borders, that's okay because they're preserving Japanese culture, right? But if America does it, oh, that's racism. If Europe or Canada or other countries impose massive tariffs on US goods, well, they're just protecting their local artisan economies and domestic production. But if America does it, it's a reckless trade war. I mean, give me a break. It's a total double standard, and also it seems like people just don't really get it. Trump isn't trying to start a trade war. He's attempting to end the era of America getting ripped off. So many of the arguments that people are making just don't make sense to me. I keep hearing people crying about free trade as well. That's another one, right? What Trump is doing isn't free trade. But to me, it's the exact opposite. What Trump is doing is free trade. The people who aren't engaging in free trade are those who are imposing anywhere from 10 to 90% tariff on many, if not all, US imported goods in their country. Again, it's not free trade if America does it, but when everybody else does it, you never hear anything about free trade, right? Now, what Trump is advocating for is exactly that, free trade. And that's the whole point here. A lot of these tariffs are not even going to go into effect. It's a bargaining chip. These are warning shots that he's sending. He's saying, come to the table and negotiate, or you're going to have to deal with this. And trust me when I tell you, these foreign nations don't want to deal with US tariffs. That's basically an economic death sentence for them. And so what's likely to happen is a lot of these tariffs are not even going to go into effect because foreign leaders from across the globe are going to come to negotiate. They're going to most likely lift a lot of the trade barriers, and then Trump's going to sign a deal with them. And I think he plans on doing this with as many world leaders as possible. possible. Anybody who's willing to play ball and actually negotiate, I think Trump's going to engage with. But obviously, the armchair economists don't seem to see that, right? I don't think they want to see that. Firstly, because, well, their criticism is totally political, or they're just repeating, the traditional wisdom on this type of issue. Tariff bad, right? All these big brain armchair economists all over the internet are all pointing to the Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act. Everybody just says, Smoot-Hawley Tariff Act, argument over. But that was the 1930s. A completely different time, a totally different world, and it's just one historical example of tariffs supposedly having a negative impact. We don't even know if the tariffs themselves were the main factor at the time. But this idea that tariffs don't work just because of Smoot-Hawley, I think is a little bit short-sighted. There are historical examples of tariffs actually working. I mean, we've seen it work in the steel sector, for instance, where tariffs were applied and the sky didn't fall, no jobs came back. And so at the end of the day, it's an economic experiment. And yeah, sure, it's certainly a bold one, but there's a strategy here. And the whole purpose is to chart a different course, to challenge the status quo. It's the kind of gutsy move that we haven't seen in decades. And while the Chicken Little experts are screeching, remember that those are the same experts who told us that inflation would be transitory. Those are the same people who backed NAFTA, or told you that China joining the WTO would be a good thing. Those are the exact experts who sold out the working class. The same experts who are wrong about nearly everything. At the end of the day, it's too early to be making a prediction or melting down. Simply stay the course, let the policy mature, and let's see what happens. And really think to yourself, who has more to lose? America, the strongest economy and nation on the globe, or everybody else? Develop a frickin' backbone, will ya? Maybe, just for once it's time to fight for American interest rather than globalist interest. Anyways, that's pretty much what I got for you guys on this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.